Bungie was back this week with their This Week at Bungie update, giving us details on Trials Labs and some really important and interesting trial stats over the last few weeks. Well, today I'm going to go through all the latest news so you're kept up to date. Well, if you're new around here or find this useful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below for all the latest Destiny 2 content and turn on notifications by hitting that bell. Well, let's jump straight into the This Week at Bungie update from the 23rd of September 2021. So first of all, we're going to go into details about Trials Labs, and these experimental weekends allow us to test out the targeted changes to the game mode and collect data and feedback on what works and what should remain an abomination of science. So in keeping with our Trials revamp this season, we're sticking to our test and learn mindset, not only with labs but also with matchmaking rewards and other quality of life improvements. So this weekend, the normal Trials of Osiris playlist is replaced with Trials Labs Capture Zone. I'm sure many of you have been playing it already. So this new mode is still elimination, but it has the following changes. So 30 seconds after the round starts, a capture zone is enabled, and players can capture this zone to win the round, or just eliminate the other team, just like normal. The capture zone has a waypoint from the round start, including a countdown timer, so everyone will know exactly when and where it will be. The capture zone starts in the middle of the map in the first round and changes location each round, and the team who just lost gets the advantage spawn location. So also for this week, double trials rank points are for every match, so if you're feeling the blues of Fabled and Mythic, well, this is a great way to reset. Well, next up we've got Are You Flawless, and this goes into some detail over the last couple of weeks of stats from Trials of Osiris. Really interesting stuff, and really good to see the transparency from Bungie here, so let's get to it. So we tried something new for Trials this past weekend, and that is last weekend they're talking about. Something that has been requested in feedback since Trials launched back in Destiny 1. We tested out separating off flawless players and their fire teams from players who hadn't yet gone flawless that week. Before we discuss what to expect this week, and in the future, we'd like to talk about the goals we have for matchmaking in Trials of Osiris, and look at some of the key data points from the first 2 weeks. Well, one of the main changes we made with Trials this season was to allow solo and duo players to queue up, and this had 2 main benefits. It allowed players a low barrier of entry and expectation to try out the mode, and more importantly, it increased the population enough that fire teams of mid-skill players landed more wins than if they'd only matched against other mid-skill or high-skill teams. So solo players are the key to the entire system working. For example, in our first week, a whopping 54% were full fire teams versus solos and duos. So cut to this week, there's only 45% were fire teams versus solos and duos. That is a pretty sharp drop. To get enough solo players in, we need to offer rewards that are good enough and matchmaking that feels reasonable regardless of skill level. Right now, we've got engrams that you can grind for, as well as attractive 7-win rewards, but only if you win. So next up, we've got keep solo players winning. We learned a lot from the first 2 weeks of solo matchmaking. So week 1, solo wins was 23% of all games, and blowouts, that's 5-0 losses, that was 38% of games. So most worryingly, the blowout rate for solo players went steadily up over the weekend, but then in the second weekend, the matchmaking changes pushed that rate back down. So in week 2, we've got solo wins 36% of games, that's compared to 23% of games in the first week, and then blowouts or 5-0 losses, that was 29% of games, down from 38% of games, so it did have a little bit of a difference. So Bungie say this feels a lot better for solo players, but obviously adds some side effects of fire teams to mid to high skill level. Long term, we're looking to keep the solo win rate above 30% and the solo fire team blowouts under 33%. So it's good there to see Bungie's goals, and it gives us a little insight into what they're going to do. Well, next up we've got keep game quality high, so make sure more matches feel competitive, especially at 7 wins. So we talked about blowouts as one way of looking for competitive matches, and we also consider 5-1 matches as non-competitive. The sweet spot is really 5-2 and 5-4, so those matches tend to feel good while playing, even if you end up losing. So in week 1 we saw 60% of matches end at either 5-0 or 5-1, and then in week 2 the number of non-competitive matches dropped to 52%. That was a nice improvement, but we'd like to see this number drop to somewhere between 30 and 40% over the long term. Next up, we got keep matchmaking times low. So one of our biggest goals is to keep matchmaking times low while still getting matches with good connections and a competitive outcome. And we always keep an eye on matchmaking times whenever we make serious changes to the matchmaking landscape. In both weeks, average matchmaking times are pretty steady at just under 50 seconds per match. And the only reason it was even that high is because players who started off on a terrible streak would end up in a matchmaking pool below the base pool, and that only looked for players who had started off losing 10 rounds in a row. It's a very small pool with matchmaking times that last over 4 minutes before the system gives up and expands back into the base pool. So we're going to be adjusting how the matchmaking help applies so no one gets stuck in the smaller matchmaking pool going forward. Well, next up, they go into detail about other things that work. So they just had over 700k players this weekend, only 50k fewer players than week 1. This is higher than expected, given a normal drop-off after launch combined with Distant Shore being a less popular map. Plus, we had 253,000 players go flawless, and games were 10% longer, mostly due to more competitive games, and I bet that also has something to do with the Distant Shore map. Well, next we got things that didn't work, so we saw 34% less matches played overall, and the number of matches post-flawless dropped by 45%. Wow, that is a huge drop there, and we had reports of a significant number of players resetting 5-0 or 6-0 cards, but we saw around 16,000 total cards that were reset while flawless but under 7 wins. Given the vast number of games and the cards played, that was 2.7 million cards started this week. That isn't a lot, but it's something that they are watching, as it's unhealthy for the mode if it becomes more common. Normally we see nearly 50% of the players who are going flawless doing so with someone else who is already flawless, and last week that was 56%. This can either be a traditional carry or just playing with friends. That number dropped to 16% this week, which is unacceptably low for the friend game content. Wow, that is huge. So it went from the first week from 56% to 16% last weekend. It's going to be interesting to see what we get this weekend. Well, to address this, we're making 2 changes in week 3. We're waiting until Sunday morning reset, that's 10 AM PT, to enable the flawless pool. This serves as a middle ground between week 1 and week 2, and as the semi-permanent placement for enabling the flawless pool. As always, we're going to be looking into both the analytics and feedback, so keep telling us what is working and what isn't. So make sure you jump onto Twitter or Reddit and get in touch with Bungie or tag them and just let them know how you're feeling, how you're enjoying it, and more importantly, what you're not enjoying about the game mode. So they're also working on some deeper matchmaking solutions that they hope will help them remove the flawless pool. Look out for more info that in mid to late October. And they're also turning off their matchmaking help until you play at least 2 matches during the weekend. So in addition to the previously announced changes this weekend, players will no longer get special ammo replenished when being revived, and adding a hold functionality to purchase gear from Saint 14 to prevent accidental purchases. Weapons received from the reputation rank track on Saint 14 will now have their Masterwork slots active, and previous weapons obtained won't receive a Masterwork slot. Unfortunately, while we previously announced that we'd be removing the matchmaking counter for this week, that change wasn't quite able to make the 3.3.0.3 patch, so look forward to that in the future. Talking about the future, Bungie do go into a little bit of detail about the future and some more changes they're going to make. So we expect to take another swing at matchmaking to keep some of the solo, lower skill protections from week 2 without strongly negatively affecting flawless players. That's good news. And we're also looking at adjustments to rewards for round and match wins on 7-win cards. Other than that, updates and the Trials TWAB reports become less common as we get Trials into a more stable state. And also importantly, Iron Banner is back next week, so after Trials Labs Capture Zone, Trials is going to take a week off and return on October the 8th. So no Trials next weekend. It's coming back on October the 8th though. Well, that is it for the Trials info, but next up we've got On the Cover. So earlier today, and that is Thursday last week, we announced our first digital fashion magazine dedicating to showcasing the fabulous style of Guardian. So this is your time to shine in the first edition of Threads of Light. So we partnered with 3 Guardians who previously created their own fashion looks highlight on our first cover, and they pose for our cameras and outline their looks for you to recreate. So the next time you're on the red carpet, be ready to answer the question, who are you wearing, with either Numley, Muffin Bandit or Vanguard Vogue? Your inner vanity might be whispering, hey, I want to be on the cover too. Now, if you fancy your Guardian posing for the next edition of Threads of Light, well, we got good news for you. It is time for another fashion show. So similar to previous shows of fashion, we're going to be hunting for looks that catch our eye and sharing them on our suite of social channels across the globe. And all you have to do to enter is share a shot of your Guardian's appearance and use the hashtag #ThreadsOfLight on Instagram or Twitter, and you can tag @Destiny the Game or our account for your region. And we're going to be picking the winners up until September the 30th, and they will pick one of each class to be on the next cover of Threads of Light sometime in the next few months. Everyone we feature will still get the fashion show emblem, but only one Hunter, Titan and Warlock will make it on the cover. So start digging through your wardrobes, creating your look, and good luck on the runway. Well, let me know down in the comments what you think of the latest Destiny 2 news, and that is it for this update about Trials Labs, Trials Stats, and also Threads of Light. And as always, thank you so much for watching. For more Destiny 2 content like this, hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to This Week in Video Games. If you want to join the community, check out the Discord link in the description, or you can follow me on Twitter @TWIVG Podcast. If you enjoyed this video, found it useful, liking and sharing the video would really help me out. Otherwise, check out the other videos on the channel. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next video.